something else.
Okay.
Round two. There we go.
Round two. Sorry, we just had some technical difficulties. They don't want us to show it. I don't know. But we're here and we're live. So, welcome everyone who is watching. My name is Bianca Hughes and I am an Associate Professional Counselor at the Jordan Stones Counseling Center in Roswell, Georgia. I'm under direction of Mandi Peek, supervision of Mandi Peek, and also Dr. Felix. So, with me I have...
Good evening, everyone. I'm Justin DeBose. I am a licensed counselor in the state of Georgia and a co-worker to this fine gentleman and this fine woman here.
And I'm Jared Washington, also Associate Professional Counselor, Pathways Transition Programs, as well as Peachford Hospital.
Okay.
Yes.
And so we know each other because we've all worked together as therapists, still kind of work together whenever we can as therapists. So we wanted to bring you this broadcast because if you ever work with us, we do get work done, I promise you.
I promise you we do.
But we have these really good conversations, in-depth conversations. And so we kind of wanted to bring you something here. I remember, was it maybe a month or so, I was talking to Justin and I was telling him about an event I done called Sister Siesta, which is really awesome with Jobbing and Jazz. I just want to give it a plug. I'm just saying. The next one is on September the 20th for you ladies. So it's a great event where women can just connect and just rest. And so I was telling Justin about it, and then I was actually scrolling through my Instagram, and as I was scrolling, I was like, wait a minute. There's all these great women empowerment and things that women can do and they can go to. So I was like, where are the stuff for men? And then I think maybe a few days later, Justin was like, I was telling him about the event. He was like, so when are we going to do male empowerment, Bianca? I was like, you know what? That was a really good idea. And also, just to let you know, a friend of mine also in London commented on the same thing and asked me the same thing.
It's a necessary thing.
So it's a necessary thing.
Straight
So you might be thinking, well, why is she here? She's not a man. No, I'm not a man. I am a woman. But I'm just a bit of a moderator. I'm just going to be the facilitator. I am here to get the nitty-gritty details because, you know, sometimes guys, you know, you just have a tendency not to give us everything, you know.
We give what's necessary.
They give what's necessary.
We're efficient.
So I'm just trying to get the bit extra than necessary, okay? So we really want to talk about the men empowerment, and I know for Jared, he talks a lot about the mental health aspects of it, Justin too, but also the socialization, and just really wanting to empower men. So I'll just ask you guys kind of what, I know I give a brief description of why you're here, but what about in your own words, why are you here on this broadcast today?
Jared,
What do you want people to get from here when they leave?
The point that I want to get across to everyone is that men are, especially black men, as much as we live in a patriarchal society, that doesn't necessarily apply to us as black men. Society is not geared to help us succeed. Ask any black man that, they'll tell you that. So what we're here to do is try to reach out to a group that we are a member of course, being black men, and kind of shed some light on.
That's what happens when you mess with technology.
And we're trying to shed some light on what black men are dealing with and how we can start to really empower ourselves and each other. I mean, you ask anyone, what was on BET? What was it, like 2-3 days ago?
Black Girls Rock.
Black Girls Rock.
Black Girls Rock.
Ain't never made one for us, huh? And don't get me wrong now. I'm not trying to step over the women. I'm not trying to down talk the women, because trust me, we know our black women struggle. But a little bit of focus needs to be placed on the man. It has to happen if the black men start to finally rise up. So that's what we're here to do, is kind of start to touch on some of those points.
Yeah. And for me, just really, I'm here just to also just to bring that support to and shed light on the importance of vulnerability to shed light and the importance on mental health. And again, like, you know, we live in a patriarch society, and we'll be talking a lot about that. Talking a good portion about that, I will, at least. We live in a patriarch society, and that comes with certain definitions or certain ways. We've been socialized to be a certain way, and that kind of takes away from the vulnerability piece, is basically what I'm trying to say. And so I want to be, so I'm here to be that support so that we can get to that. So, yeah.
Okay. So, since you guys were talking about the definitions, one of the first definitions I want to ask you guys about is, what is manhood?
Whew. All right, straight to it, huh? All right. Jared, you want to first, or you want to?
Yeah, I'll go first. So when I think about manhood, right, I've been pondering this question for a couple days now, or actually a couple weeks, because we had this conversation a little bit ago. And I've been, you know, it kind of, when I think about what is manhood, for me, it's kind of twofold, right? And I say it's twofold because you have what society says manhood is, and then we have what manhood is culturally, right? And so those are, and it's kind of difficult to balance the two. You know, and so for me, what I would say manhood is, I would say for me, manhood is accountability and responsibility, right? And vulnerability, you know, being true to yourself. And trying, and when I say being true to yourself, getting away from how we've been socialized, getting away from how society, this patriarch society, getting away from that, right? Society says manhood is being a protector, being a provider. There's going to be times where you can't protect. There's going to be times where you can't be a provider. Does that mean that your manhood is? Does that mean that your manhood is challenged, or does that mean that your manhood is not there? And the reality is that it is still there. You get what I'm saying? But again, we just have to allow ourselves to be vulnerable, and we're going to get into vulnerability later. But it's such a big, for me, it's such a big thing, and it's key because again, we've been socialized to be this strong, powerful, and not showing the emotions, and that's what the definition of society says is manhood, and I don't agree with that. So I think manhood again is accountability, responsibility, and vulnerability, being able to be true to yourself. So.
I like that answer, Jared. I really like that answer. I want to take it to another level, take it a little further, piggyback off of that answer. I was taught that manhood is meeting the responsibilities that are necessary for yourself, your family, and your community. If I can give a short and sweet answer. And meeting those responsibilities without, I guess I should say without a sense of self-pity or, because you're going to have doubt, but it's meeting those things without starting to make excuses for it. But to take it to that next level, I believe that manhood, especially black manhood, is significantly under attack, but that goes without saying.
Yeah, it is.
Because like you said, the vulnerability aspect is key. That's big. That's huge. Because here we are, men as a whole in general, like we said before, aren't supposed to be vulnerable. Mm-hmm. So manhood is a lack of vulnerability. It's a lack of emotion. It's taking care of what you got to take care of, no crying, no complaining, no anything like that. And then if you happen to be a black man, so black manhood, a few steps down the ladder, you have to be even more of those things. Mm-hmm. In the middle of a society that unfortunately doesn't necessarily give you an outlet to take care of yourself. So, but again, we'll get into that. The manhood component is meeting the responsibilities that are necessarily placed in front of you by whatever your circumstances may be, kid, wife, children.
What does that look like, that actual, the responsibility? What does that look like for you guys in lives of people that you know in terms of that actual manhood? So just so some people have something tangible to kind of think about or kind of picture, or even if you can give a movie or, a character or something like that, just to help people relate.
I think that taking care of your responsibilities piece, for me, looks like kind of like what Justin said, like taking care of your family and taking care of your community. I think that that's your responsibility. That's my responsibility. I think my purpose in life is to take care of my community, you know, and my family is a part of that. You get what I'm saying? Taking care of the brother next to me, taking care of the sister next to me, right? And I don't mean that in a patriarchal sense, right? And I think that needs to be said because, again, we're talking about manhood, right? And when we talk about manhood, you know, society says the protector, the provider, the leader, right? And if we even look at it from like from a biblical sense, you know, it's like the man is the head of the household, and I kind of want to get away from that.
It's a partnership.
It's a partnership, right? I kind of want to get away from that. It's a partnership. I'm strongly against this patriarch society, and so for me, so that's what responsibility means for me: taking care of my family, taking care of my community, and because it's definitely needed, you know. So that's what it really looks like for me.
Okay, so. Did you want add anything?
Yeah, what the manhood looks like to me, similar to what Jared said. To me, I would say manhood looks that way. It's interesting. I agree and disagree with Jared because I like that get away from the head of the household. I don't have an issue with the phrase head of the household, but I wanted to be a clear distinction between the head of the household and between being a leader and a dominator.
Okay.
You know, you can lead without dominating people. You don't have to lead by fear. You don't have to lead by power. You can lead by serving, which is what I think of when I hear head of the household. And when it comes to manhood, you're serving and taking care of your family. It's not an iron fist kind of rule. It's more of a what would be the best decision to get myself and my family to this next point. That's what I think manhood looks like.
Yeah. Cool. And I think, So I also think manhood, like there's a difference between a dominator and a leader,
right? And
what can I do as a man, or what can I do as the leader of this family? What can I do to get us to the next level or get us to the next step, right? But I feel like for me and my family, like there's things that I just cannot lead in,
correct?
And there's things that my wife may be better leading at, and that's where I can take heed and say, hey, you know what? This is your area of expertise. This is what you can. This is something that you should take over. This is not something that I can take over.
I'm with you 100%.
But I do agree that we can lead by serving. I love that. You know, first of all, serve is all we shall transcend on. You know, that's you know, I had to bring that in there. You said it. You know, so I definitely think that you can lead by serving. I definitely agree with that point.
Okay.
So serving looks like what? You said. What does that look like?
Well, I'll use it.
For you, like, can you...
I got a perfect example.
Yeah.
Serving for me looks like, again, you're helping your family, yourself and your family get to that next level.
Okay. So
for me personally, and I'm being vulnerable, and my wife is watching. Hi, wife. I'm going to talk about you now. My wife made a transition in May where she left her previous job and she started a new job in August. So in that time period, she wasn't working. So, I could have, like you said, that iron fist. I could have been that iron fist of, well, you need to get something over the summer. I could have been something like that kind of guy. But instead, I just rose to the occasion, did whatever was necessary for the home, and made her feel comfortable to take that time off and, you know, go back to work in the fall with a renewed, you know, feeling rested, feeling good. That's what I get kind of leading by serving. That to me, that's a good example of it, because you kind of propel her to her next level, and as a result, the whole family rises up.
Okay.
So.
All right. What about you?
Actually,
well, you didn't come up with that 7. That was more.
Yeah.
But you like that idea.
I like the idea, and I agree with it. I had a very similar situation where my wife was in school, and I had to rise to the occasion and you know, do what I had to do and things of that nature. So.
Okay. And I mean, in general, I know for me, just even not in the household, but leadership is about servanthood.
Yes, it is.
All right, so it's about servanthood. So one of the things that you guys mentioned, and it's my favorite topic, vulnerability. We're gonna just go straight in it. What does it mean? What does it look like? because you kind of mentioned that. So this is what I hear, okay? This is what I hear when we're trying to do some therapy is men don't cry. Men don't have emotions. You just got to suck it up. You just got to move along. Can't talk about this. That's just the way it is. But then you know what I see, and I think you guys, I know is that the men turn to an addiction.
Something.
Something. Instead. Because there's all these stuff going on that you're not supposed to talk about or be vulnerable to, because if you're vulnerable, what happens? What is supposed to happen, or what does that mean? What does that represent? So let's kind of talk about what vulnerability has represented for you guys kind of growing up and in society, and what you've had to fight against, and then what does it represent for you now?
Ooh, vulnerability. All right. It's going to be fun, Jerry.
Do you want to define it?
It should be real fun, right?
You said don't want to define it. No, I don't. I do not. We'll be here all night, and I'm good on that. Vulnerability. Yikes. I understand vulnerability because I'm a therapist, so I get it on that perspective. But like I said, I try to come from the social component. Socially, we are trained not to be vulnerable. There are too many things in society that associate vulnerability in a man with weakness.
Okay, yeah, that's the word.
And here's the thing about that. I disagree with vulnerability meaning weakness, but I have to when I say recognize, I should say, I have to recognize that it's prevalent in society. So I can sit here and tell any man watching or any woman watching to tell their man, go home and be vulnerable. Just start being vulnerable. It's all for the greater good. Yeah. And what will happen is a bunch of people who he shouldn't be vulnerable around will tear him apart. Okay. And so I can't sit here and say that they should just throw it all out there. Okay. I think that we have to recognize that vulnerability is important, but it's who are we vulnerable with that matters significantly more than even just opening up in the first place. Yep. I think we have to start to make better choices about who are we being open with and who are we being vulnerable to. Yep. Man, to me, it's a learning process even I had to go through. And these two know me, and anyone else that knows me that may be watching, I'm a friendly person. I'm an open person. I'm the kind of person that I'll what did I say before? Like I'll sell myself for the greater good of everybody. Meaning, if I gotta say something goofy to make Jared laugh and be having a bad day at work, I'm gonna do it. Bianca has called me a fool many times. Many times. It is what it is. Others watching have. It is. I know it's not an insult on my intelligence. It's more so a trying to get people to feel comfortable, and that's what vulnerability is. It's a feeling of comfort with people that you feel you can open up with and share to.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think for me the definition of vulnerability is really just being able to express and show uncomfortable emotions. I think that is.
Can you name some of those uncomfortable emotions, or some people might refer to them as negative emotions? Is what I
fear, sadness, loneliness. Yep.
Black men feel lonely and fearful.
We'll get there.
Yeah, definitely, absolutely. And but it's so important to express those type of emotions, and like Justin said, expressing those type of emotions to the right people, to a safe person, a person that you can identify as safe, a person that you can identify that you feel comfortable with sharing these uncomfortable emotions. And vulnerability is all about also being comfortable with being uncomfortable.
That's it.
If that makes sense. Right? Being comfortable with being uncomfortable. Because the thing that the reality is that these uncomfortable emotions are natural. We all experience them, right? And since we all experience them, we're human beings, we're feeling beings, we all experience them, we have to get them out. In my sessions, I always give this analogy to my clients. When we hold our emotions in, it's like we're shaking up a soda can, right? And then we open it up, it's going to explode.
It's going to explode.
It's going to explode. But when we express it, it's like shaking that soda can, and just slowly twisting off that cap. It comes off. It comes out in a much better and a much healthier way, right? And so that is also so us not being able to express ourselves and us not being able to be vulnerable. Us as men, it comes out in an explosive way at times, or it can come out in an explosive way at times. You get what I'm saying? When we're not expressing ourselves, and it's so important, and it's detrimental to our mental health. That's the key, because it's detrimental to our mental health. But we've been socialized, like you said, that being vulnerable is being weak. When I was younger, vulnerability wasn't a thing, right? It wasn't a thing. When I'm around, I couldn't imagine crying around some of my friends or telling some of my friends that I'm sad. I could tell them I'm mad as hell. I couldn't tell them I was sad.
Yeah, I can be angry. I can be angry around you all day.
I could be angry. I could be mad, upset, frustrated, all of that. But I couldn't be sad. I couldn't tell them that if there were times where I was feeling lonely. I couldn't tell them that because they'll look at me like I was crazy or like something was wrong. They'll look at me like I was a punk or like I was weak.
Right.
And that's what we have to get away from. And that's the barriers that we're trying to build, that we're trying to break down. With sharing this this live stream is this whole idea of men. It's okay to be vulnerable, especially black men. We deal with a lot of things on a daily basis. We deal with typical stuff that men deal with, right? That every man deals with. But then as black men, we also deal with things like racism, right? And which is a big thing. I mean, just look at Charlottesville. How do we handle that? Who are you being vulnerable with? Who are you talking to about things that happen in Charlottesville? Because those bring up emotions for you.
Yep.
Right? Who are you talking to about it? We need that. We need that support. So
I'll even take it even from the overt racism. And now let me not classify this stuff as racism, but there are there's little things going on even in the media and television shows and everything that brothers see. Brothers see that. Yeah, I'll make people angry. That's what I do.
That's nothing new.
It is nothing new. For example, there's a show that comes on Sunday nights that many of my friends, male and female, love watching. They love watching Insecure. Love it. At the end of an episode, I want to say a week or two ago, a certain male character in the show was called a name that a lot of women that I saw on my Facebook gravitated towards. And the dude was called, hi mom, he was called a fuckboy. Yeah, sorry.
What does that mean?
Well, let's just say it's a guy that gives off an impression of good and is not. But he was called that. And then all of a sudden, all through my Facebook, all I saw, I relate to that, just all over the place. And I'm realizing here it is, #1 show. I mean, the show is widely popular. And I'm watching tons of black women on social networking and everything just gravitating toward the negative thing that they said about the guy. And I'm like, I wonder what this is doing to brothers. I wonder what this kind of thing is doing. And on a lighthearted note, I had a conversation
What did
with
it
someone
do to you?
To me?
Yeah. When you saw that Facebook stuff.
There's that vulnerability.
Yeah. How did it
I was
feel?
angry. I was angry, and I was a little sad because I'm like, really, no one will look at any other aspects of the show or any other things that, I'm not going to say what the woman might have done, but the whole picture. It's just, I can totally relate to that. That's exactly what it was, and it's just straight negative. And it made me sad. It made me sad because I'm like, man, the lack of support that black men get is very prominent, but it a lot of times gets overshadowed, in my opinion. It gets overshadowed by the lack of support that black women get in their community as well, which we know exists. We know that definitely exists. But I'm bringing more attention to the fact that it's a two-way street, and that I think brothers are recognizing the lack of support now, and it's causing us to get those unhealthy emotions you talked about, the sadness, the anger, the loneliness. But I can't just run to your homeboy, man, I'm lonely. You know what I'm talking about? You go to the wrong man and say you're lonely, ain't no telling what you know how that may be received.
You can't say that just because it's
so told y'all I was gonna be comfortable. But I say that to say and Jared talked about the big things like Charlottesville, some of the riots, some of the things that are going on right now. I'm looking from even just a small social aspect on the really minute things that slowly add up and kind of take a toll on the man, saying, "Damn, nobody really care about us like that." And it starts to pick away at a black man after a while.
So there's a big thing here, what I hear you guys saying, as long as the vulnerability piece is hard, but there's also an aspect of that you don't feel like anyone cares, including sometimes some black women. So that adds to the pressure of all these other things that you got going on, and also adds to the challenges to be vulnerable.
Right, because when a man feels like no one cares, he's going to turn to, like Jared said, certain emotions that may be negative. That you're going to be angry, you're going to be fearful at the isolation or lonely, or you're going to be sad. And I mean, you see it happen all the time with men. You ever seen a guy that just completely overcompensates in everything? Mm-hmm. He's got to be perfect in everything because he feels he has something to prove.
Okay.
I feel like I agree with most of what Justin said. The one thing that I didn't agree with is that I think that the people that we do get the support from is black women. I feel like black women support us overwhelmingly. I feel like
more than anyone else.
More than anyone else.
Yeah,
I feel like black women support us more than anyone else. I don't watch Insecure, so I don't really know about that situation or whatever. But I think that black women support us overwhelmingly, and I just lost my train of thought.
It's okay.
While he's finding that, black women, y'all do support us more than anyone else. Let me make sure I put that out there before I get some inbox messages. Okay, go ahead.
No, I think what he was saying, what I hear you saying is so you're not misinterpret, is that when you see things like that come from black women, it's hurtful.
Yeah, it hurts. Definitely.
And it makes you feel sad and angry.
Oh, definitely.
So we're here talking about vulnerability. And he's not sitting here saying, "Oh, all these women don't support us." We're talking about when I see this on Facebook, this is how I feel.
Right.
This is being honest about that vulnerability piece to say, you know what, this stuff does affect us. Although we might not say anything, we might cuss or we might say this, there is a part of us that is attached to that and does have feelings when we do see that.
Right.
Right?
Oh, absolutely. Yep.
Okay.
But I think what's interesting too, though, is that as we talk about, I know you want to go through the next.
No, I don't.
But I think what's interesting about that too, because it makes me think about. I saw a status one time where somebody I went to high school with posted a status and said, "Hey, if ladies, if your man was crying and crying uncontrollably, what would you do?" And I seen an overwhelmingly amount of women say that they would tell him to suck it up.
That's rough. Wow.
And I saw and I was just like, wow. And I thought for me, like I received it differently because I'm pretty sure a lot of men saw it too and was like, yeah, I agree. Like the woman should tell them to suck it up or whatever.
Of course they gonna agree. They ain't got no choice but to say they agree. You can't be the one guy to go on there and say, I disagree.
What?
Let him cry it out. Because then he gonna get cooked.
And I just was like, damn, that's kind of crazy. And I'm like, maybe I feel differently because I'm a therapist. And maybe because I look at, vulnerability differently, but I've seen a lot of women, all different colors,
right,
say like, oh, I would tell them to get over it, suck it up. There was a couple, let me not overshadow the other ones. There was a couple that said, no, I'll let them cry and, things like that. But it was just shocking. It just again, just double down on that point that, men have been socialized not to show any emotions, not to show weakness or, let me do this for weakness, but not to show weakness, not to show sadness. You can't do it. And again, that takes a toll on our mental health. I'm gonna keep throwing that out there because I think mental health in the black community is so important. It's so important. I believe in generational trauma. And when I talk about generational trauma, I'm talking about traumatic experiences or just trauma being passed down from generation to generation to generation ever since slavery. Right? So if you have that layer already from the time you were born, and then you add on, as life goes on, you add on more layers and more layers and more layers, and not being able to express yourself, just imagine what that does to your mental health. Just imagine.
Yeah, you talking generational trauma. I 100%, man. I'm stumbling over the words. That's so true. That's so true. It takes the form. It takes many forms. Like your granddad taught your dad. You know, about the ways of the world. And to us as men, it's the ways of the world. But what it is this bad thing was done to me. This is who did it. Watch out for it.
Yeah.
Dad grows up learning that. When we get of age, he comes, sits us down, tells us, this bad thing was done to me and your grandfather. This is who did it. Let me watch out for it. And it just keeps going. It keeps going,
Yep. And when you said that, they said what? Suck it up. That part when he's crying. It makes me think about, which is sad, but it also, I'm not making this okay, but there's the other side to it where people don't know. If you haven't dealt with your own emotions and your own stuff and have your own level of self-awareness and know your own vulnerability, if someone is crying, you don't know how to handle that. If you haven't dealt with your own stuff and it's bringing up stuff inside of you and you're uncomfortable, you're going to tell someone else to suck it up. And also going back to the stigma of like, oh my God, I got this man, now he's crying, this means maybe he's not the man that I thought he was. So now all those fears are coming in to you that you also haven't dealt with. And I just want to go back to that mental health piece for everybody in dealing with that, because when you deal with that, I had that today, someone just gave someone a tissue, and I'm always going to talk about this, and this is my plug for the tissue. In society, when someone's crying, we give them a tissue or we tell them to suck it up because we can't deal with it. And what that is saying is like, you need to stop, this is not good, you need to get it together, you can't do this, I can't handle it when I'm giving you this tissue, this is what it's representing when I'm handling the tissue. So it's twofold.
That's an interesting point.
It's twofold, and so I don't allow tissue. I don't allow tissues. Like my clients be like, "Is she not gonna give me a tissue?" And the tissue's over there. The tissue's over there. They can go and get it, but I will never hand it to them because that crying is that healing process. I mean, I understand, I've been trained and I'm used to it now to just sit there and people are like, they're crying. Like, no, this is a process. The way I see it is a process in terms of healing, but we're just so used to handling the tissue. That is what it is representing, and that's why people don't know how to deal with someone who is crying their eyes out, because that's just what's always been shown. Oh, let me go get you a tissue. Oh, you need some, any film, you will see people getting a tissue as someone is crying. And so I just want to talk about that piece. When we're not dealing with our own mental health and we can't deal with our own stuff, we can't even be in there to support that person that is crying. And so that always goes back to, someone asked the question about the safe place. Where can I be vulnerable? What does that look like? How do I know that this person or where I am is safe enough for me to be vulnerable?
When I'm in sessions with my clients, one of the first things I say when it comes to being vulnerable is I make the analogy of somebody learning how to swim, so to speak. I've never known anyone that learned how to swim by jumping in the middle of the deep end and you just figured it out. If so, you need a new teacher. I say you start with the little things. Start with small things, just maybe how you're feeling that day even. And if you express something to somebody and you get in something along the lines of, okay, and then they talk about themselves, you may not want to keep expressing it to them. Or again, if you don't have to be crying uncontrollably, maybe it's just, again, it may be a bad day, or you got a little tears, or you're just feeling sad. And if you express just something minor and that person tells you, suck it up, get over it, doesn't mean you got to take that person out of your life. But in my opinion, I think at that point, you've just learned that person is probably somebody you don't want in your innermost vulnerability circle.
Can you say that again?
You typically don't want people that will shut down your emotion in your innermost vulnerability circle. And since, again, we're reaching out to black men, brothers, and sisters too. I'll be inclusive.
No, you could do that.
But brothers, sometimes we have a tendency to run toward family as being the ones that we got to throw it all out on, and they're supposed, you know what I mean? They're supposed to love us, they're supposed to hear us, they're supposed to do all of this. That's not true. That's not true. far too often the people that are telling us to just suck it up and get over it are probably in your family. And again, I'm not saying cut your family out. What I'm saying is understand that may not be someone, even in your family, that you can't be extremely vulnerable with.
Yeah.
So share your vulnerabilities with someone else that's more supportive, and stop throwing it on whoever it is in your family you think is supposed to do it.
Yeah.
That's not it.
Yeah. I always say, just look and see how they talk about other people, how they treat
Right.
other people.
Right.
Trust me, they're going to do it to you. Even though they're being nice to you in the moment, just see how they talk or don't talk. If they're not talking about their friend, business, then maybe you could trust them. If you hear how they talk about their friend, maybe and just talking highly of people that they know, maybe this is someone, and you give them that small piece of information. But you can tell, you know when someone you can trust. We all have that instinct, but we have a tendency to ignore it and second guess it. But
Right.
always go with the
And we talked about the hurt, and I'm gonna pass it to you, Jared, after this.
Yeah.
We talked about the hurt that black men are feeling. Imagine the pain that comes if you finally feel something, you finally open up to what you think is supposed to be your biggest circle, your family or your family, and they shut you down.
Yeah.
So think about the isolation of a black man if you feel you can't even talk to your own damn family about certain things.
Yeah.
Oh, you're by yourself at that point. Go ahead, Jared. My bad, man. I ain't need to take over like that.
Nah, you good, you good. I mean, I feel like you said everything that I was going to say.
My bad, man.
You feel like you said everything I was going to say. But yeah, I feel like we know who that person that we should trust. Like we know we can feel it. Like, you know, like for me, like I know the people that I can trust. I know the people that I can go to and be vulnerable with. Like I know who they are. And
what is that experience like when you're vulnerable with whoever it is? What is that experience in the moment when you're being vulnerable, immediately after, and maybe a few days after?
Well,
because it's different every moment.
So for me, I feel like I am particularly blessed with the people that I have in my circle in terms of being vulnerable. I have people who are also in this field that's in tune with their feelings, in tune with others' feelings, and is just understands the importance of being vulnerable. So for me, being vulnerable within that moment, for me, it's like a release. It's like just getting it all out. It's just like, oh man, I'm feeling this way because of this, because of that, and yada yada yada, blah blah blah, and it's just like a release. That's just the best way that I can describe it, or whatever, right? Because I'm getting whatever I have on my chest, whatever I have on my heart, I'm getting it out, right? Now, how do I feel right after? I usually feel a little bit better than I did a moment before. I usually feel a little bit better than I did before. And how do I feel a couple of days after? That can depend on the situation. It can depend on if maybe that time I was vulnerable, whatever I had an issue with, maybe if those feelings are resolved. Right. So if those feelings are resolved, then I'm definitely feeling better. Right. If those feelings aren't resolved, then I may be back just in terms of just what I go through in my mental health. I may have to go back and be vulnerable again.
Right.
How about you? Same question. However, I want you to talk about the first time you did that. The first time you were vulnerable with somebody new. What was that like? Because it's different when you know them, how they receive you, versus when you take that step. Because there's some men out there who haven't taken that step before and are scared to. So what was it like? What was those feelings the first time you were vulnerable and you just had that mask come off?
Okay. First times for me are always, I mean, I imagine for Jared as well, but first times for me are always the toughest. Always the toughest. You know, my heart is racing at that point. It's racing as I'm about to come out with something, bring something forward, have that difficult conversation. I'm the kind of person that once I start, I just kind of got to get it all out. It's kind of, I mean, it's like a well. Once it opens, please don't close it. It's just the best I can say. Please don't close it if it's open. Let it all come out. I'm just, at that point, I'm pouring it all out. And what I'm really hoping, what I'm looking for, what I'm hoping for to see if I'm going to continue to be vulnerable is I'm looking at that person's face, their body language. I'm looking at how they're responding, even if they're not using words. I'm looking at anything that tells me, and it's something I'm still working on, anything that tells me they don't like what I'm saying, they're not receptive, they're not listening. Any reason to walk away, it just kind of sticks out to me. So it's kind of like, it's almost like when that first time, I have to mentally keep telling myself, keep going, keep going, keep going. Because if I don't, I'm not going.
Okay. So even when you're being vulnerable, there's those thoughts like, you might have thoughts in, maybe I should change the story, or maybe I shouldn't share this much, or maybe this person is going to think I'm crazy. And so when you stop, and then you go wait for the response, how is it in between you finish sharing your vulnerable moment and then waiting for that person to respond?
It's the longest minute ever, honestly. That's what it feels like when you drop that bomb. In your mind, it's a bomb. It's interesting because in their mind, it may be something minor, something they even knew. But when you drop that bomb, I mean, the men were waiting. What is he, she, whoever, what are they going to say? What are they going to do? What's the response going to be? And, I mean, typically a person gives it within seconds. Within the next 60 seconds, they give it. But that 60 seconds is long. Ooh, it's long. That joint is painful.
So then, after, and you are in that safe space, what are some of the benefits?
Oh, I'm closer to that person then. If they responded in a way that's healthy or supportive, oh, I'm definitely closer to that person. We good now. We in there. Yeah. But that has to happen first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've had lots of vulnerable moments, guys. So just want to let you know.
Oh God, yeah. No, we all the time.
I think before we continue on, I think with one thing that you mentioned, and I think is really pivotal, is you said. You were like, do you have thoughts of, or not do you have thoughts, but some people may think like, oh, am I crazy? I think that is something that's extremely big, because there's times where individuals have been vulnerable with me, and they're like, and they'll say something, they're like, well, does that make me crazy? If I had a penny for every time I've heard that phrase, I would be a millionaire. I promise you I would be a millionaire. And I think it's important to really harp on that phrase, like, when people are being vulnerable, does that make me crazy? Like, even sometimes when we have those thoughts of like, does this make me crazy? No, that doesn't make you crazy, because people experience, we're feeling beings. We're human beings. We feel, right? And I know I said that like it's natural, it's normal, it's not crazy, it's okay, right? It's okay, and we have to get away from that. Oh, I'm feeling like this, man, it must make me crazy. No, other people have experienced the same things. That does not make you crazy. That makes you human. That makes you okay.
Yeah.
So.
It goes back to that human factor. We have to remember we're human. And I think one of the things I always stress, me personally, is that we look at life as imperfect versus... If we approach life and have a mindset that life is imperfect versus that it's perfect and trying to make it perfect, it's a lot easier for us to deal with stuff.
Much easier. So, accept your flaws.
You spoke to me with that one right there.
Oh yeah, man.
You just spoke to me with
that. Yeah, I have to tell clients all the time, man. Accept your flaws, man. Whatever they may be, accept them, please. Because if you...
We be spinning our wheels.
Oh, man.
I think that's another thing that you guys, correct me if I'm wrong, you have to live up to this persona.
Yes.
There's a couple of them.
Oh, definitely.
Some of them are great. Some of them are not so great. See, I had this topic I want to talk about.
Nope.
They would not let me.
I just said that.
I just want to say.
I'm just not well versed in it.
But we were going to highlight this issue. So I'm going to highlight the issue, but in a different way. So, the question... I just think it's very important.
Can you make sure that we're still recording real quick?
So the question is, so we talked about this vulnerability piece and things like that. And how can we empower Black men? What does it mean to empower black men, and kind of like we've been bringing in the mental health piece. And so I think that there are some key points of wisdom you guys have to, I think that you guys can share about how they can empower themselves. We talked about the safe places, we talked about the vulnerability piece. What are some other things you think that could be real helpful? Because I think another point is, I never forget the day, Justin, we were talking about black men,
one of the many days. Mm-hmm.
And he goes, why are you so hard on the black men?
I did ask her that. I did. Because Bianca's hard on them.
But I had a reason. What was my reason?
Oh, what was your reason? But I feel like it was something along the lines of like you recognize the potential and what they should be, which I agree with.
I do. I recognize it, and I do give them a bit more of a harder time.
What I didn't agree with Bianca was her route of doing that to push us to that point.
So we had this discussion, but I'm for black men every 100%.
Oh yeah, she is.
I'm so for you guys 100%.
She's just a person. I love her though.
I am. So I could just see all this potential, and I don't stand for any BS. So I'm gonna like, come on guys, let's get it. You got it. Let's keep moving. So he asked me, but he made a really good point for me that the fact that you guys are coming from a point of survival, especially when you're going to compare it to the white men, where they have all this stuff set up in the white privilege, but black men, and when I refer to black men, this is worldwide. You guys can tell I'm from London, so shout out to all my London peeps. And we have black men worldwide, Latino, wherever you're from. So just black men, just want to state that it's not just African American, it's black men all over the world. And so you guys are coming from a place of survival mode. And so your baseline, you said, correct me if I'm wrong, is survival.
Absolutely.
And so sometimes you might not even be thinking about this empowerment piece because you're trying to survive. Correct? So how do we move from that, and how do we get to this empowerment? What does it look like? What are some key points?
Just to hit on that survival real quick. When certain other cultures greet each other, hey, how you doing? I'm doing fine. A, B, C, and D. Brothers greet each other. How you doing? Man, I'm making it. I'm alright today.
That's so funny. I say that. I'll be like,
all of us say,
trying to maintain.
Yeah, I'm just trying to maintain. I'm making it. Yeah, it's ingrained in us that we just trying to survive at this point.
Yeah.
Succeed. Oh, we want to get to success, but at this point, we want to make sure we make it to the next check. Make it another day. You know what I mean? It's every single thing with us is just, can I make it to the next, whatever that end game is, whatever that point is. Oh, absolutely. And ask the question again, Bianca. I'm sorry, dear.
So that's fine. So with that survival piece and all that, so what is it? What do you guys need to do? What are some keys? Because this is the title, the keys to empowerment for black men. So how do we empower black men? What are some keys coming from your perspective as therapists? Because we talked about the vulnerability piece, but I think there were some other stuff that we've mentioned in the talks and discussions that black men need to be aware of, need to do. We know vulnerability is huge. What else is there?
Jared, you handle therapy, I handle social. Just kind of get both sides of it.
You the LPC, man. You the LPC.
we sitting here on the same level. The reason I deferred to Jared on that is socially, I believe that, of course, my job is therapy. I believe that sometimes, brothers, we need therapy. We need a professional to help us. That comes with the territory. But on a social aspect, we can't see our therapist every day. Though some of us may need it. We can't see him every day. So my question I would ask is, what's your circle look like? And are you all having a conversation about your successes, your failures, those inner workings that are going on with you, with your friends? If you're not, I would ask you, why not? For me, on a personal level, I have a group of friends, a group of guys that I've known since, at this point, I think high school, elementary for some. And some have come, some have gone, some have left and come back. But one thing that we always do is we discuss our successes, not necessarily in a bragging way, but it's like a congratulatory way. I think one of the ways in which we can really empower each other is to celebrate success within the black community. Between black men, celebrate success and let it not be a competition between them.
Yep.
Or if it is a competition, let it be a motivating competition, but not one to demean anybody.
Yep.
I think that's big for us. Men are wired a little bit differently than women. As far as being in tune with emotions, some of us are, some of us aren't. It just kind of works out that way. Different degrees of vulnerability. We talked about that. But one thing that sticks out, I believe, to any man, your family, your job, your finances, things along those lines. And whenever any one of those things are going good, I believe men need to talk about it. And if you feel like you're around people that you can't talk about that with, I believe that person doesn't need to be as close as they were before. So in a social aspect, men, pick a circle, honestly, that uplifts you. Not worships you, not gives you false praise, none of that fake stuff. I mean, that genuinely uplifts you, but also holds you accountable as well. Pick a circle that will, if you are slacking on something, they're comfortable enough to tell you you're slacking on it, and you're comfortable enough with them to not get an attitude about it. To not get so defensive about it, but actually open up and take it as, this brother's coming from a place of love, or this brother's coming from a place of support. Maybe I can do it. Maybe what they're saying holds some truth.
Yeah.
So on the social aspect, get that circle tight, gentlemen, please.
And if we're going to talk about on the therapist aspect, I think some keys to empowerment is going to therapy. If you ask
Right.
me, I think everybody should go to therapy. Every single last person that's on this earth should go to therapy. And I say that to my friends. My friends are like, why do you think I need to go to therapy? What you think is wrong with me? I'm like, I don't think anything is wrong with anything. But I think you're going to go through some things that you need to process, right? You're going to go through some things that you need to process. You're going to experience some things that you need to process, right? So some ways to empower black men is, like I said, going to therapy, processing through some of the things that you've been through, process through some of the things that you're going to go through. Bring a friend to therapy, or tell a friend to go to therapy. Yep. Process through some of that family trauma. You know what I'm saying? So again, that's what I think. I think therapy is a key piece. And
Jared being polite, he thinks. I'm sorry, I know. Y'all need to go to therapy. I have over the years. Let's put it this way: a lot of people are gonna be happy when I finally pass, because I'm taking a lot to the grave. Got a lot of friends. Well, let me not say friends. I got a lot of people I know over the years, and people I don't really know, but I know stuff about.
Yeah.
Who have opened up to me.
Yeah, I need y'all to go to therapy. My friends tell me, I'm not your therapist.
Yeah, I'm not your therapist. I love everyone.
I love you.
But and I'll help. But it's not my job to be like, family, friend, associate in the grocery store line. Your therapist. Legitimately go and sit down and talk with a professional. That helps. It doesn't mean anything's wrong with you. It just means it's an outlet to get certain things out.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And it's a different perspective, a different way of seeing it. Sometimes we're so used to seeing things a certain way or interpreting in certain ways. We just need someone with a different eye. You are not crazy.
You're not crazy at all.
And I need one, and I don't really care what anyone says.
You need that objective, unbiased view, point of view. That's pretty much what it is.
Right. That's not the homeboy. It's not mom. It's not dad. You need someone who doesn't know the inner workings of you to help you with whatever situation you may be going through.
Yeah.
Amen to that. It's okay. It's all right. I can't say that enough. It's okay to talk to somebody.
Absolutely.
It's okay to go to therapy, brothers. Please.
Absolutely.
Go.
Absolutely.
And what happens how are things affected when you guys don't? What areas of your life are affected when you don't talk? You hold things in?
All areas.
Like what?
Work, financial, marriage, family, relations, all areas. For me,
it hits everything.
Everything hits everything. Everything is affected. Everything is affected when I get to that point.
I'll say it, Bianca. That's fine. I'll say it.
I'm not allowed to.
Oh, you trying
I
to
was
get
shut.
That's why I'm like, I'll do it. Whatever.
Listen,
I do this for Bianca. That's fine.
Just trying
She's been trying to get to this one subject, and obviously
We're not allowed to talk about it.
We can talk about it. I'm just not well versed in it, so you're not.
No, we agreed to mention this fact.
Yeah, I told her I'd mention it.
Sexual dysfunction.
When things are not okay in our lives, man, I'll take it on, whatever. When things are not okay in our lives, certain things happen to us. I know, dude, the eggshells, the rough. No, you know what? Screw it.
No, because with therapists and these things happen, right? Guys come in and this happens, and we're not saying it happens all the time, but it can affect your sexual function if you are not dealing with certain
your
things.
Sexual function, your expression. Yes, brothers, I'm saying you probably may not be able to get it up if you're having issues in every other aspect of your life. It means the truth of the matter.
And you're not talking about it.
Yeah, it's the truth of the matter. Yeah, if we don't talk about it, my Instagram paused, but it'll pick back up at some point, I guess. If you don't talk about it, you're going to have that issue every time. You're going to have problems are going to start to pop up, and you're going to wonder, why is this happening? Why is this happening? It could be in, out the bedroom. It could be wherever. You're going to have issues pop up if you're having problems at your job, problems socially. If you have so much pent-up anger, you think you're going to be fine in other areas of life? You're not. You're not.
And there's sex therapists out there that can help with that as well. And it's not embarrassing to go to a sex therapist if you're having problems in that area due to having problems in all the other areas surrounding you, or having problems in other aspects of your life. It's okay to go to a sex therapist and be able to get that stuff out so that you can get it up.
See, this is why I didn't even want to talk about it. They said that I was saying it's all black men, and it's not. My point is, I just want to put it out there because there's these people suffering in silence and isolating and not talking about it. Mm-hmm. And there's another issue we haven't touched on, which is so important, is the increase in suicide amongst young black males, right? Because guys are isolating and you're not talking.
Right.
There's this pressure, this socialization. That's one thing we haven't talked about, which I think is so key. Is it's just crazy the amount of young black males who are committing suicide.
Oh, significant. It's a significant amount.
Right.
Pause 1 second. I'm looking at my Instagram live, and I guess mine is going to stop in about a minute. For anyone that's on my Instagram, please go to the Facebook link that has been posted for the remainder of it. I will try to get it back up and going once it stops, but we're also going to keep on rolling. So, love you guys. Hope to see you at Hope to see you on Facebook. But
we also want to get some questions. So
we definitely are going to get some questions. You said, Bianca, go ahead again.
We're talking about male suicide.
Right.
The increase in young black males committing suicide.
Because
we don't deal with the issues.
We don't deal with the issues, and we're hurt. We're hurt as men. We're hurt.
Yep.
We don't know how to deal with the hurt.
Yeah.
We don't know how to deal with the hurt. We don't know how to deal with the pain. And if we try to step out into the shallow end, but we step out with the wrong person or not to a professional, and it's not received in a way that helps us, then that isolation gets worse.
Yeah.
And we feel worse about it.
Yep. Yeah. We don't in our community, we don't deal with mental health. And if you look at our last live stream that I did with Bianca, when I talked about my mental health, it's also it's this thing of like, in the black community, go to church, pray it away, and
pray it away.
I'm not saying that doesn't work, but there's other things that you can do as well. Faith without works is dead. So if you're not putting in the work yourself as well, then nothing is going to come out of that.
Right.
You get what I'm saying? So, we have to be diligent. We have to be able to address and to deal with. And my battery's about to die. To deal with mental health in our community.
Right.
And
we have to be diligent with it. We have to.
Yeah, and there was something you said about the praying it, faith without works.
He said faith without works.
Yep. And that's so key.
I'm trying to get my Instagram up.
And so that's the other part as well, is that there are things that we need to do as well as praying, because I am a believer, but there are other things in regards to dealing with this issue and we need to talk. We need to create as a community, I think, also the safe place for people to talk. we do that by dealing with our own issues first, going through that experience, and then we can also share that with others in helping that, because we need to talk. There are people struggling and suffering and isolating and all those kind of things as well. So yeah, was there anything? So we want to go to the questions. I can't need my laptop.
Need your laptop?
Okay.
It's right behind you.
Oh, okay. I'm still here.
So we're going to take some questions now, because I know everyone's got a ton of questions, and I saw, thank you, a ton of questions coming through. So I don't know if you guys can see any questions.
Oh, we're back. At least on Instagram.
I don't know if you guys can see any questions yourself there at the moment.
Yeah, nah, Jared's is sideways. Most of my people went to Facebook, so.
I can't see any of your questions, but what I'm going to do is, once the live video is done on my Facebook, I'm going to go back and read all the comments and questions and respond to everybody.
Yeah, good. Yeah, good point. Good job. Good point on that. Yeah, for any one of my followers that's reading, or anyone that I don't know, hi. Also, any questions, comments, concerns, anything that we don't answer or we didn't answer here, or we didn't touch on, you can send any one of us the question. Just send it to, you can comment it to us, you can text us if you know us personally. Just send it to us. I have a suspicion this won't be a one-time thing. I have a strong suspicion this won't be a one-time thing. So any questions that we don't touch on here, we'll touch on in the next time we do it. Yep. Or we'll also respond on the next video or in the comments.
One of the big things talking about highlighting here is about the accountability.
Mm-hmm.
What is accountability? What is that looking like?
I think it's just another word for responsibility.
Yeah, and being it's hard to say the definition without using the actual word in it, but being accountable for things that you do, being responsible for the things that you do, owning up to the things that you do, ownership. There you go. Accountability is
owning
ownership.
up to it.
Ownership. There you go. You see how we process that? We process that together. We own up the word that can define accountability.
Ownership. Just own it.
Okay, so one question. What are some of the specific ways we can create safe places for our black men?
Live streams, support groups, mentorship, things like that. I think the support groups is really big, where you can have like discussions. I know on college campuses, there's like groups of men so I was a part of Brothers Making a Difference at Rampo College in New Jersey, and we used to have group discussions every week. We would have events where where the brothers on campus could come and talk about different things and things like that. We would have like specific topics and things like that. Fraternities can also provide these spaces as well, such as Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated
or Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. Don't do that.
there's many different ways that you can create these safe spaces, but I think the support group.
She said go slow.
Oh, I'm sorry.
She's taking notes.
Oh,
but we're doing a playback, so you can also watch this back.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, mentorship, support groups, and what was the other thing I said? I forget. But yeah, mentorship and support groups and live streams. That's what
on a personal, I guess on a more intimate note, you can create a safe place at home by, even if you disagree with something that a black man is doing, respecting it is a big point of contention for a lot of men. You ask a lot of black men, they'll tell you they do feel like they don't get respect. It may be in their homes, it may be in their community as a whole, because you ask black men if we think the world respects us, I believe that'll be 100% no, with the exception of OJ. So whatever. So for the most part,
adding a joke,
it's not a joke. Because you get those men that feel like the world actually does respect us, and we look at them like, really? The world. So we already feel as if the world itself doesn't respect us. So I can't speak about that one enough. And respect is not like submission, because I know that word brings up a lot of ill feelings in a lot of people. Not you, Bianca. respect is not submission. It's just regardless of whether you agree or disagree with the person, respect their viewpoint. I think that will create a very safe place as long as the person feels like they're respected to talk, that their viewpoint is respected, whether they agree or disagree. They'll be fine. They'll be more willing to bring things to you as long as you actually respect where they're coming from. Mm-hmm.
The submission piece, I like the submission.
Mm-hmm. Respect doesn't mean submission.
Submission is the submitting to the mission, right? And so and submission is both sides.
Correct.
So and when I say the mission is whatever this relationship. So
correct.
i.e. we're all here to give you guys this male empowerment. So there's maybe a time when I'm quiet, they're quiet, whoever's quiet, because for us, the mission is to get it out there. It's not about us. It's not about what we have to say. So we're going to sit back. We might not agree, but we're still going to sit here because our focus is on what is the overall mission. When you're submitting in any relationship, you're focused on the relationship. I'm doing this for the greater good for the relationship. It's not just about me. So I think that's what comes into that submission part. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I'd agree with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. As a black man, what would you all say is the safest approach for being vulnerable without being angry at the same time? It's a really good question.
Recognize what you're angry about. If there was anything I had to say to that question, recognize what you're angry about and be able to. And the good thing about this is, men, we actually can do this. We're pretty good at this, actually. Recognize what you're angry about. For example, if you're mad at something that happened at work, that has nothing to do with your spouse or your significant other. So when you open up about that, you can be angry. Trust me, anger is an okay feeling to have, but do your best to not be angry at the person that you're being vulnerable with. So that may even take the form of, it may even take the form of when you're starting the conversation. Give a disclaimer. give a disclaimer of, hey, this isn't about you, or I'm not angry at you. I'm upset. For example, just in making lighthearted of it, anyone ever got that text from your significant other or boss or something, because bosses text now, that it says that message that says we need to talk.
Oh, I hate that. See?
And it's just, you're immediately thinking, man, what the hell did I do? Or whatever it may be. And I know for my wife, when she sends that, first thing I say, hey, is it me? I need to know it. As soon as she says it's not me, then I'm open to whatever it is she has. I should be open in anyway, but I'm more open and I'm not as defensive, or I'm not as on my heels if I know it's not about me. So if you have those powerful emotions, but they're not directed at the person you're being vulnerable with, tell that person that, it's not you. It's not you. But I'm angry at something. That way they never think that it's coming at them.
Yeah.
And I would agree with that, because, anger is, again, a natural emotion. So what's the safest way to be vulnerable without being angry? I would say just be, but let them know, this is, I'm angry, but it's not at you, it's at this situation, and then just be. You get what I'm saying? Because there's nothing wrong with being angry. It's really just about how we express it.
Right.
And so if we express it in a healthy way and let that be known, hey, I'm not angry at you, I'm angry at this situation, then I think that is the safest way to be vulnerable. But it's okay to be vulnerable and angry at the same time. That's mainly what I'm getting at, because that anger piece is important, because you don't want to suppress that. Again, because when we suppress everything, it's bad for our mental health, it's bad for us, period. So we don't want to suppress that. So.
And I always want to make the distinction between the feeling and the behavior, because people be like, and I get this because of people's upbringing. When someone was angry, it meant fights, it meant abuse, whatever the case may be. So you have that definition. So there is a difference between I'm angry. I could be sitting here really angry right now. You guys have no idea because I'm sitting here and smiling. But it's only if I did something or I threw something, you might be like, okay, she's angry. So
Right.
now that's the second part. That's my behavior. Now that's my choice. That's me
Right.
choosing to do something with that anger that might not be healthy. So it doesn't have to be that the anger means that I'm going to kick off or I'm going to punch someone or I'm going to get in a fight. And so I always want to encourage people to always make that distinction. I don't make a distinction between negative and positive emotions. They're your emotions. They make
Correct.
you more uncomfortable.
Correct.
But it's the behavior that people are attuning to the emotion. No, they're two separate things. So in answer to this question, yes, I think you guys are right. But just know whoever's, who asks the question, that just because I am angry and I want to speak in about it, that doesn't mean I have to get rid of my anger.
Right.
Right? Because
Right.
if you're still suppressing it. So you still want to be like, look, I'm really mad, I'm not in a good mood, but I just need to get this off this chest. It has nothing to do with you. But we don't want to suppress that anger because that's just going to come out in other ways.
Bianca, you bring up a good point. Brothers, there's negative emotions don't exist. There's no such thing as a negative emotion. Your emotion is whatever you're feeling at the time, and it's perfectly acceptable and fine. It's yours. Negative behaviors exist. And when I say negative, I mean behaviors that are counterproductive to whatever point it is that you're trying to get across.
Yep.
That's what I define as a negative behavior. Your emotion is never negative.
Yeah.
Don't let anyone, brother. So another key to empowerment, your emotion matters. That sounds so cliche, but it's your emotion matters. How you feel is entirely acceptable for how you feel.
Okay. Thank you. Another question. Can you just go in, we were talking about that respect. Can you respect and disagree at the same time?
Absolutely.
It's tough, but it's possible.
Yeah, I respectfully disagree with you. Just saying.
That's a perfect way to do it. I respectfully disagree.
We do it all the time, especially with Justin. If you ever hang out with Justin, be like, nah, Justin.
My friends know.
I'm listening to him, but I'm not agreeing with you.
My friends are open to respectfully disagree with me all the time, and I'll do the same to them. Yeah, it's perfectly fine. That's also, guys, that's a great way to dictate who's healthy and who should be in that circle or not. Anyway, people that you can respectfully disagree with and it not turn into an argument or a measuring contest. Those are the ones you want in your circle because those are the ones you can be comfortable with and open with. But if every time you all disagree and it turns into an argument to see who can be right, it's not healthy.
Okay. So I've just seen if I was checking your okay.
Looking at more questions?
When it comes to manhood, how do you separate the social media? Social media is in capitals.
Who questioned that?
Yeah. How do you
that's a good
separate the
question.
social media? Okay, so let me a second. When it comes to manhood, how do you separate the social media pressure that takes the place of peer pressure for black men to act and appear a certain way in public and in the eyes of people who don't know them?
Oh,
That was
man.
a really good question.
That's a great
Thank
question.
you.
Thank you, G Trills. Appreciate that.
That's a good one.
Got me processing real hard tonight.
To me, while Jared's processing, to me, social media, unfortunately, it's a part of our life. You can't really just remove yourself entirely off of it like that. It even impacts people that aren't on social media. I think the way to do that is to have a balance. And when I say balance, I mean have a circle, have a group outside of social media that can challenge some of those, let's say, stigmas that we see in everyone's status as we scroll through our Facebook or our Instagram feed. Have something to counteract all the things that are telling you to be a certain way on Instagram or on Facebook. So if you have enough support outside of social media, I think that will help a lot as far as you retaining some sense of self-esteem if you're not matching up to what statuses or whatever it may be, media and social media may be telling you what to do.
Yeah. I think, I'm going to have to piggyback, I agree. It is finding that balance and understanding, because I know for me, social media is not reality. So
Thank you.
It's not the reality. It's not the reality for you. So it's really finding that balance between reality and social media. Right. And so social media, I see a lot of things on social media that it says how men should be. I seen a question today that said men should pay the whole rent and not half. Like, I'm like, okay, that's not reality. That's not my reality. I can't, oh, my phone just died. That's not my reality. So I can't succumb to that. You know what I'm saying? I can't succumb to that pressure. You know what I'm saying? That doesn't fit me. So how do you separate by finding that balance between reality and social media and what fits you and what doesn't?
Mm-hmm. Man, you remember the $200 date thing? Remember when that was big for a while?
No, I didn't see that. What was that?
Oh man, it was the whole thing on social media for a minute about this amount has to be spent. Oh, brother, I was pissed. Oh, I was angry.
I don't pay that stuff no more.
Talking about when I say the comments underneath it, if he can't drop that, he can't drop that. You know, you don't need to be out with me. My mom might be watching, right? Okay, yeah. That's just to give an example of.
I see some crazy stuff on social
crazy
media
stuff,
in terms
man.
of
what you
like
guys
gender,
meant to live up to and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, just in terms, not even just with men, but for women too. Like just like these gender roles that are so made up. Like again, I seen one today that said a man shouldn't pay half the rent, he should pay the whole rent. And I'm like, that doesn't even make any sense.
No, it makes
that doesn't even make any sense. You know what I'm saying?
How's that a partnership? How's that any sort of partnership?
So, so thanks, guys. So those pretty much some of the questions that we had. A lot of people were kind of agreeing just with the accountability factor. The vulnerability was a huge piece. Also validating feelings. Oh, and let's also say that the one other thing was about the vulnerability being weakness. That's actually not true. To be vulnerable, it takes a lot to open up and share something about you that you don't know if someone is going to shut down. So that's, to me, is actually more courageous. That's a moment of bravery. That's a moment of strength versus a moment of weakness, because there's not a lot of people. It's not easy because you don't know how someone's going to respond.
I'm glad you see it that way. And here's an example, guys. I respectfully disagree with you. I think that the equating vulnerability with weakness is definitely not true for women, but definitely tends to be more true for men.
What do you mean?
Meaning when if a woman is vulnerable, a lot of times I see that being portrayed as she's open, she's in touch with her emotions.
Right.
If a man is vulnerable, I'm more likely to see that he's emotional, or they try to use some sort of negative term compared to the brave term is when I say that.
Yeah, that's society.
Right.
But I'm talking about the fact of the matter is...
Right, I'd agree with you on that.
Anyone to be vulnerable. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I'm saying the fact of the matter is, this is why we have healthy discussions.
Oh, yeah, we do it all the time, guys. All the time.
The fact of the matter is, male or female, you have to be, there's an element of bravery and courage and strength to be vulnerable. Mm-hmm. It's not weakness. If I sit here and I share to you that I'm hurting versus I'm angry, if I sit here and I say I'm experiencing shame or I'm experiencing guilt, then that's huge. Oh my God, how can I forget about that word, shame? Oh my gosh, we did not. Because shame is huge.
Shame is big in our community.
Shame is huge.
Mm-hmm. Unhealthy guilt.
Ooh, yeah. And so to define, guilt is what I did was bad and I made a mistake. Shame is I am bad. I did that thing and now I am bad. And so shame is a big thing that keeps people from being vulnerable, keeps people, I think also men, there's a huge amount of shame, would you guys say? Or black men
deal with a lot of shame just placed upon them from jump. Society places a ton of shame upon a black man just from jump. It comes from the way society is nowadays. Mm-hmm. And how men deal with that shame will dictate whether or not, will dictate a lot of things in their life. Let's just say it that way. Shame is huge. And when that gets internalized, we start to feel guilty for things we didn't even do. So.
What do you mean by internalized?
When we hear how we're supposed to be, or we're not matching certain expectations, again, that social media component, and maybe in our family or whatever, when it starts to get internal so much then we start to feel guilty about things that don't even apply to us.
Can you do me a favor? I just need you to break down internalization.
Oh, okay. When I say internalization, I'm talking about, I'll use the example, when you're raising a child, if you call a child a knucklehead, so to speak, for the whole first 16 years of his life, when he hits 17, guess what he probably thinks he is? Probably thinks he's a knucklehead, and his behavior will match that. It's the same way with the shame and guilt. If this is a big key to empowerment, if society consistently tells men it makes us feel like we don't matter, makes you feel like you don't matter, makes you feel like you're a second-class citizen, makes you feel less than, then when you become an adult, you're gonna feel less than. You've internalized it. And then anything you do that furthers that, you feel guilty about. And it may be nothing you did wrong at all, but it was just placed upon you. And breaking away from that is one of the things that we as men have got to do. We just have to.
Okay. Anything else to add on that shame piece? Okay. All right. So what's final last words for this time? Because, if you guys feel like there's anything more that you want them to discuss or talk about or need to talk some more about, please let us know. You can send me a message via Facebook or email.
Send any of us a message. My final words are Black men are hurting. We're hurting more than we want to be honest and open up about, and that's fine. I wouldn't ask anyone in the comments to open up or anything, but I'll do it. Black men are hurting for a number of different reasons, and many of us don't know how to express that hurt. So the way in which we do it, sometimes it's healthy, sometimes it's not. But if it's one thing I want to give people as a takeaway is that we're hurting and we're just looking for a way to decrease the hurt and find a safe place. That's all of us are looking for. We're looking for some sort of reprieve to the pain that we're feeling, be it societal pain, family pain, job pain, anytime. We're just trying to reduce the pain that we're dealing with. And this is not to make an excuse for, like we said, negative behaviors. This is just to shed some light into what's going on with the men in society, especially the Black men. This is just to shed light on what's going on with the Black men. And as something we've talked about throughout the whole stream, is ways in which we can start to combat that.
From the final word, Black men, we need to support each other. We need to empower each other. We need to celebrate our successes and pick each other up when we have failures and downfalls. That's mainly what we need to do because our mental health depends on it.
It depends on it. And if our mental health falls apart, Black men, we gonna fall apart.
Yeah.
That's just how that goes.
And I just want to say, I'm just looking at some of the comments. There's some women, Black women on here, and just talking about, and I know for me, I got a lot of Black women wanting to support the Black men, there to support the Black men. So if you was, yeah, and they know how. So if you're saying that you're meeting someone and they're not, there are women out there that want to embrace Black men, want to empower, want to support. You're just gonna have to look out for them, and it might not be who you thought it would, who you thought they were, or where you thought they might be. So I just want to let you know it is possible. These guys do it. They do it with me.
They out there.
They do it even more with their wives. So it's not just a fact of, okay, this is just not happening. There's no one out there to support them. There are women out there who are waiting and ready. I know plenty of them out there. So it is possible. And I just also think there's other Black men out there as well who are wanting to create these circles and wanting to make a difference. You're just going to have to take a step, and you're going to have to maybe search for it. But just knowing that they are there, they're there. Also, the Black male therapists are also there.
There's some of us out there, y'all.
They're out there.
We here. Ain't a lot, but we here.
We here.
And wherever you are, if you can't find some, hey, my email is Bianca Hughes Counseling at gmail.com or biancakHughes.com. You can always reach me. or I can put you in touch with these guys. Even if you're not in America or wherever we are, we can find something. We have a therapy network, and so we can find someone or try and help you find someone or connect you with someone wherever you are in the world. I know me. I'm resourceful, so I'm going to find a way. So just to help you if you feel more comfortable, or maybe you prefer a black male therapist, or just a good therapist in general. I just know that.
Got you.
I know that the black community, is more comfortable seeing someone sometimes that looks like them, and I understand that. So I just want you guys to know that is out there. So thank you so much for everybody who is watching. If you didn't, but maybe people are watching later on, please share. And if you have any other questions or anything else you want us to talk about, I did have one woman say that, talking about do a segment on single mothers raising a black son.
Oh wow, that's a good one.
It needs to be talked about.
I was raised by a single mother.
It needs to be talked about.
Yeah, so I'm sure that we're going to get a lot more. So thank you so much, and thank you for your time, and have a wonderful evening, guys.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in.
All right, bye.